What's up, everyone? Welcome back. It's the 5th of January, 2025, and in today's video, I want to talk about Week 18 in the NFL, in particular, this Bears-Packers game. Of course, Chicago and Green Bay, the most storied rivalry in NFL history, and just like their first meeting this year, the second matchup between these two teams had a very dramatic ending with multiple lead changes in the final minutes. And in this video, I want to talk about the immense synchronicity and numerology of this game. In particular, through the number 11, which is a number I've been documenting in connection to Packers quarterback Jordan Love for quite some time on this channel. Now, Packers quarterbacks have been the topic of many of my recent decodes. You may notice on my channel that for 3 straight videos, I put former Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers in the thumbnail. Rodgers was traded before the 2023 season to make way for Jordan Love. And in this video, we're going to talk about the synchronicity with the news, the wider world of sports that followed Jordan Love today. And we'll talk about how this connects to a bus accident in Wisconsin, of course, the state where the Green Bay Packers play. Now, on New Year's Day, we had a truck attack in New Orleans, and this is the site of this year's Super Bowl. And I'm going to talk about how there is a Super Bowl riddle with this game as well. Not this year's Super Bowl, but Super Bowl 61. Now, this truck attack in the city of New Orleans was the first such attack in the United States since an SUV tore through the Waukesha Christmas parade back in 2021. And just like the New Orleans attack, it was a Ford vehicle used in both ramming attacks. So here's a quick map of Wisconsin. Of course, we have Green Bay up here near the thumb of the state, as we like to say. And this Waukesha attack was in nearby Waukesha, Wisconsin, of course, which is a suburb of Milwaukee. And we'll also talk about this bus accident that killed a young boy in Sussex, Wisconsin. And you'll see Sussex is right up the road from Waukesha. So in this video, we will explore how all of these events connect together. So glancing at the ESPN article for today's game, we see a few interesting alignments. Now, coming into this game, the Chicago Bears had lost 11 straight games to the Green Bay Packers. So they hadn't beaten them in over 6 years. 11 straight games. Furthermore, by winning this game, the Bears avoided their 11th straight loss of the season, as they lost 10 games in a row coming into this game. Now, by defeating the Packers, they kept Green Bay on 11 total wins for the season. So the number 11 has been one of great significance to Jordan Love. Now, Jordan Love, of course, replaced Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers wore number 12, and Jordan wears number 10. Now, of course, the average of these two numbers is 11. And 11, a big number to the sport of football, both international and American, as there are 11 players on the field at all times. Well, isn't it amazing that through their first 11 starts in the NFL, Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers had identical statistics all the way down to the exact same passing yards. They were both 5 and 6, and they both threw for 21 touchdowns in addition to this. So what are the odds that this all came together after 11 starts? Well, it just so happens that after week 11 happens in the NFL, that's when Jordan Love turns it on and becomes nearly an MVP caliber quarterback. Here's a graphic from last season showing how he started tearing it up after week 11. This year, you'll notice that Jordan Love threw an interception in every single game until the Packers' Week 11 bye. Then they played the San Francisco 49ers. That was their 11th game. And notice how Jordan Love even opened the scoring with an 11-yard touchdown pass in that game. So both years that he's started so far, he really turns it on as soon as Week 11 comes around. Earlier this year, Jordan Love won a game to push his all-time record to 11-11 in the NFL. Now, down in the description below, you'll see a video I made on the death of North Carolina player Tylee Craft, who wore number 23 at North Carolina, just like Michael Jordan. And Michael Jordan is connected to the number 11 as well, because he co-owns 2311 Racing, which participates in the NASCAR Cup Series. This Tylee Craft character died at 23 years, 11 days old. And he died 11 months, 11 days after Jordan Love's birthday. And then the next day, Jordan Love goes 11-11. Well, there's a guy who wears number 11 on the Green Bay Packers. His name is Jayden Reed. And in this game, where the Packers won to give Jordan Love an 11-11 record, the first touchdown was scored by Jayden Reed. And if you look up how many receiving touchdowns Jayden Reed had in his career through that game, we find that was his 11th receiving touchdown of his career. So the point I'm making here is that the number 11 essentially commands Jordan Love through his time in the NFL. Now, Jordan Love wears number 10. However, if you subscribe to the rule of Kal-El, 10 is just one off of 11. And in organizations like Freemasonry, there's this divinity concept with the number 1, that it can come and go as it pleases. So you have Aaron Rodgers, number 12, 1 away from 11, and now Jordan Love, also 1 away from 11. So, when you measure from Jordan Love's date of birth to the date of birth of Jayden Reed, who wears number 11 for the Packers, these two players were born a span of 77 weeks and 5 days apart. Why is this number 775 so significant? Well, check this out. In a form of gematria called Latin, or Agrippa's key, which I claim is the most significant in every one of my videos, the number 11 sums to 775. The first name Jordan also sums to 775. And the last name Love equals 775. So this explains why the number 11 is so important to this particular Packers quarterback. So check this out. In the Packers-Bears game today, when the Bears made a big play on defense, they would pull out these business cards that they had in their pocket that said finish. And this is a reference to finishing the season strong, because the Bears had nothing to play for other than to beat their rivals. But when I ask you, when have you ever seen players carry a business card on the field? Well, the word finish is relevant to what happened this weekend. Because in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in Sussex, Wisconsin, we had this terrifying school bus crash where a school bus driver ran over a child, resulting in their death. I mean, can you imagine a more heartbreaking scenario? And look at the name of the victim here, Finn Katona, with a first name of Finn. Well, a Finn is often used to refer to someone who's from Finland, or they're Finnish. And in this game, the Bears had this Finnish card. So let me show you how this all connects. New Year's Day, which is written 1/1, which is just like the number 11, okay? New Year's Day was 775 days before Super Bowl 61. And we'll explain more about that game in a little bit because it falls on Valentine's Day. But check this out. This crash for the school bus happened in a city called Sussex, Wisconsin. And look at the gematria of Sussex. It also equals 775. Now, with a name like Love, we have a clear connection to a city that ends with the word sex, as typically love and sex go hand in hand. Maybe not so much these days, but traditionally, that's how it goes. However, in the prime number cipher, check out Sussex, Wisconsin. This also has gematria of 775. The school bus company that was involved in this tragic accident was called Dairyland Hamilton. That was the name on the side of the bus. And in the satanic cipher, this also equals 775. But that's not all. In the same Latin cipher discussed earlier, when you write out Sussex, Wisconsin, it sums to 2006. Jordan's full name, Jordan Alexander Love, also sums to 2006. So not only does Sussex have the 775 like both Jordan and Love, but Sussex, Wisconsin has the matching 2006 with his full name. The 26 is also found in Jordan Love's age, because he's currently 26 years old. And in the standard reduction or Pythagorean method of gematria, the name Jordan equals 26. Also in the reduction method, Sussex, Wisconsin equals 61. And on the date of this crash, Jordan Love was 61 days after his birthday. Now, down in the description below, you'll find links to several videos. And one of those is about a bus crash that was connected to Kobe Bryant and the planet Mercury. And think about this, right? Just look at my channel recently, my most recent videos. Down here, I put Kobe Bryant in a thumbnail, actually 2 in a row, because he's synced up to these plane crashes. And then I also put Mercury in the thumbnail for this Jaden Ivey injury, because his injury was a mercurial riddle. It was very undeniable. So it only makes sense now that we get a bus crash connected to Mercury and this plane crash string of events that we've been seeing play out recently. When you write out the planet Mercury, notice how Mercury has gematria of 798 in Latin. Well, let's look up the Chicago Bears. Because when you look at their all-time record, today against the Packers, they picked up their 798th win of all time. Now, here at Football Reference, they don't update this number until after the day is over. So tomorrow, this will reflect 798, this big Mercury riddle. Mercury, important, because Mercury is the god of travelers. And when it comes to plane crashes, helicopter crashes, or even car accidents, school buses, death on the road, this all ties back to the Roman god of Mercury. So before I get to the Valentine's Day riddle with Super Bowl 61, there's a couple more things I want to mention. And first, it's the area code 262. Now, I've lived in both Milwaukee and Waukesha counties growing up. And for a while, 262 was my phone number's area code. And when you look at a map of Wisconsin, we find that the 262 area code is what covers Waukesha and Sussex. Once again, this bus accident occurring outside of a school at Sussex. So this 262 area code is very important. Now check this out. This bus accident started Brown Lunation number 1262. Again, every new moon since 1923 has been counted. And we just began number 1262. Well, on the date of this bus accident in Sussex, Jordan Love was exactly 26 years and 2 months old. This accident was also 2 years, 6 weeks, and 2 days before Super Bowl 61, which has ordinal gematria of 262. And Super Bowl 61 will be played 262 days before Jordan Love's birthday. Super Bowl 61 will be the first ever Super Bowl to be played on Valentine's Day. Valentine's, love, the most heartbreaking news story you could imagine. I mean, think about how tragic this is for everyone involved. Of course, the family, the person it happened to, the driver, the kids who witnessed this. It's as heartbreaking as it gets. So I also want to touch on why I actually bet on this football game and how I won with the Bears. Now, I don't talk about sports betting that often, at least not as much as I used to. And I really only bet on games like maybe once a month, if that. But here, I picked up a big win with the Bears, and I actually have a funny story to go with this too. And I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video. So if you want to get clues about how I make these picks, stay tuned. Before I talk about that, I want to look more at this Brown Lunation number. Here we just started number 262, right? Well, look at the Brown Lunation number for Jordan Love. It's the 938th lunation that he was born during. In a cipher called Standard English Gematria, which is constructed identically to Latin but uses the current 26-letter alphabet, notice how school bus accident equals 938 in Gematria. When Jordan Love was born, the Green Bay Packers franchise, their age ended in the number 938. So from the Packers founding to Jordan Love's birth, you also get a 938. And on the date of this accident, Jordan Love was exactly 314 months old. Now, if you read my post on the New Year's attacks, you would have seen that this was a huge pie riddle with the circle and the number 314. Of course, we have a big eclipse coming up on 314 this year. So Jordan Love's age for this bus crash, 314, you get the pi reflection. January 2nd was also 31 weeks and 4 days before the Packers' anniversary. All right, so what to look at next here? This clearly ties into New Orleans, the site of the car attack, which, as I mentioned earlier, was very similar to the Waukesha car attack. I will say, however, that there was actual video of what happened in Waukesha. I haven't seen video of just this video where people are running away. I don't want to speculate on the reality of all of these incidents, but what I do want to point out is the remarkable 286 connection, right? So whether you write out New Orleans, Louisiana, New Orleans Saints, New Orleans, or just Orleans, the city it was named after, They all have Gematria of 286. This is the big number of the city. Well, the man who reportedly attacked the crowd in his Ford SUV was named Shamsuddin Jabbar, which also equals 286. This was the same day as the Cybertruck explosion in Las Vegas, and the man who blew up that bomb, his name equals 2086. Well, now we get a school bus accident, which equals 286. Sussex, Wisconsin equals 2086. And this is all synced up to the number 262, which equals 2860. The quarterback that defeated the Packers today, Caleb Williams, was exactly 286 lunar phases old for the bus accident. And the name of the bus company was Dairyland Hamilton. Well, consider how F1 superstar Lewis Hamilton, the winningest driver in the history of the sport, he became an official Ferrari driver on New Year's Day. And notice how Lewis Hamilton was 286 weeks old for this crash. And again, the bus had the name Hamilton on the side. There's also some interesting skull and bones numbers here as well. This tragedy happened on 1/2/25, which is a date that's very similar to Christmas, 12/25. But January 2nd of 25 can be written the same way. Whether you write out Skull and Bones Secret Society, Freemasonry, or Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, they all have Gematria of 1225. Perhaps more significant is that 1225 is the sum of every square in the magic square of Venus. And Venus is associated with love. Just like the color green, the color of the heart chakra. All right, so there's a few more numbers. Again, the post is linked below. By the way, remember the city of New Orleans has matching Gematria with Wisconsin, 1231. So I believe that's why we got the car attack in Wisconsin, just like we had the car attack in New Orleans. Look at Jordan's given names, Jordan Alexander, with the same 1231 Gematria. When you look at the history of the Green Bay Packers, notice how they won the first two Super Bowls. They won Super Bowl I, and then II, and then they didn't win another one until Super Bowl 31, which was played in New Orleans. So think about that. They win Super Bowl I, II, and then 31 in New Orleans. That's the Gematria Wisconsin shares with the city. Now, with all of that out of the way, I want to talk about why I actually bet on this game. Because, I don't need to bet on sports. Right now I'm running the Gematrinator website, and we have just barely enough memberships for me to pay for everything and essentially do this for a living full time. And I've tried to escalate my work output recently to try to reflect this. And, I talk about sports happening by the numbers, and I often talk about how they all pan out by the numbers after the game. But sometimes I talk about numerology before the game. Now, I understand that's not what happened here, so take this all with a grain of salt if you wish. But when I do bet on a sports game, I almost never lose. And I'm going to explain to you why I bet on the Bears, even though they were almost 4-1 underdogs in this game. And I have to point this out first. Guys, the Packers have a player named Valentine, right? We're talking about this riddle with a Super Bowl played on Valentine's Day. Well, notice how this player's full name equals 2025. Which is the calendar year we just flipped to, right? Well, Carrington Valentine was born 1,042 days after Jordan Love. And those are the digits in Valentine's Day, 14/2, as most of the world writes it. And there's also a receiver on the Packers named Romeo Dobbs. Romeo, oh Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo? You know, a name that was made popular in a story about love, Romeo and Juliet. The Packers have another wide receiver named Bo. And think about how your beau is your boyfriend, right? Or your lover. And then the Packers have another wide receiver named Christian. And followers of Christ. Christ is love. They call themselves Christians. So this is a theme that runs through the entire team. And it's perfect. All right, so let's talk about why I selected the Bears to win this game, and was able to pick up a nice little poll for this game. So, as I mentioned earlier in this video, there was a very, very similar story I did a decode on back in August of 2023. This was such a fascinating story because it happened on a Wednesday, which is the day named after the Roman god Mercury. I just did a video about Jaden Ivey, his injury connected to Mercury. Jaden Ivey was born on a Wednesday, and he got injured on a Wednesday. Well, for this bus crash, it was August 23rd, which is also the first day of Virgo, which is ruled by the planet Mercury. And it was also the first day that Mercury went into retrograde for the next 2 months, or I guess 3 weeks. So I pointed this out all the way back then. And the reason this was connected to Kobe Bryant is because a man named Kobe Bryant was murdered right up the road from this bus crash just a few months prior. Again, you got to check that video out. It's linked down below in the description if you didn't see it. So I said, with the similarity of this news story, I bet I can run the numbers for Jordan Love for this story here, and I can figure out who's going to win the Packer game on Sunday. So how did I arrive at this conclusion? Well, on the date of that bus crash, and I don't care how crazy I sound, guys, this is how I live my life now, and you just got to live with it. So on the date of that crash, Jordan Love was 9,060 days old. The bus crash in Ohio was a span of 499 days before the bus crash in Wisconsin. And 499 is the 95th prime number. Okay? So 95 and 96. Well, today, the Chicago Bears picked up their 95th regular season win against the Packers. And it was their 96th win against Green Bay all time, including the playoffs. So you have the numbers 95 and 96. Just like the measurement to the Ohio bus crash that was also connected to Mercury. So I understand a lot of people, use a lot of numbers when you're looking at sports. You look at the division records, the home records, how they've done in that stadium, what their record is on Sunday. I'm telling you guys are doing it wrong. You have to look at mystic synchronicity. It has to be something that's a cosmic level, where people die or some huge event hits the news, and then tie that to the game. And again, I know it sounds crazy, and maybe I don't make any sense to some of you, but I believe in due time, this will be better understood. And again, this was the Bears' 798th all-time win, which connects to Mercury, which is the title of all of this. So, for those of you who doubt that I figured this out before the game, I mean, I definitely did. However, I didn't win the full amount of the bet. And I guess I'll just tell the story. So I put my bet in, was it yesterday or 2 days ago, and the Bears were plus 370, so I would have almost quadrupled my money. Now, I'm watching the game, and everything's looking good. The Bears are winning late. The Bears even have the ball with like a minute left in the game. So I'm thinking to myself, all right, this looks good, but it's the Bears. If anyone can blow this game, it's Chicago. And sure enough, the Bears fumbled the ball on the very next play. However, before that, I cashed my bet out. So instead of like almost quadrupling my money, I only won about 2.5 or 3 times my original bet. So I didn't win as much as I should have. And like I said, sure enough, the Bears fumbled the ball, the Packers got the ball, and kicked a go-ahead field goal. But then the Bears got the ball back, they marched down the field, and they kicked a field goal to win. So it was a chaotic ending. And, the first game between these two teams was decided on a last-second field goal, too, when the Packers blocked a field goal by the Bears. So I thought this was funny. I won my bet, but my team still lost the game, and it didn't matter anyway because the Commanders beat the Cowboys. It was a wild adventure in sports betting, and I'm not betting big amounts here. I only bet like $25 on this thing. It was the first game I bet on in, I think, 2 months. And I'm not even really for sports betting. Even people who use numerology, most of you guys end up not cashing out from these sports sites. You look at the statistics, and it's only 3% of people who actually profit on this stuff. And when you look at the odds that the bookies give you, you're better off playing a table game like blackjack or baccarat long-term rather than doing this. And I don't encourage people to do it. But all I'm saying is that there's something going on with this synchronicity in the world. And when you watch my channel enough, I think you find that it's undeniable. And I'm not claiming to be any type of wizard or anything. It's just, all of us have our own little perspective on things. And sometimes, whether it's Mother Nature, the hand of God, or just dumb frickin' luck, sometimes we get into that. Wow, was it really a Mandela effect for Romeo, oh Romeo? That's funny. I was thinking about Mandela effects recently because after the new year struck, man, I started noticing a few things where I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't know these two people were married or this person was dead and I thought this other person had a different birthday. It felt like a lot of things were changing, but, at this point, when it comes to reality and its malleability, I don't even give it a second thought. Like, clearly something is going on. To me, the biggest proof of this is the damn Fruit of the Loom logo. This kind of looks all right. But I would swear on all my loved ones that this was the logo. What about you guys in the chat? Do you remember a cornucopia behind the Fruit of the Loom logo? Because I would swear on everyone I love that that damn thing was there throughout my entire childhood. And then one day there was no cornucopia. And I have several friends who swear the same way I do. And it's either we were mind tricked as young children or something's changed. I have a feeling, already people are throwing in the chat. Yeah, you remember the cornucopia, right? What about this album cover? Flute of the Loom? Right? And I read that someone interviewed the artist for this album, and he's like, yeah, I used the Fruit of the Loom logo. Why else would I put a flute in the shape of a cornucopia? It would not make sense. So what the hell is going on here? But yeah, to me, it's a Matrix moment. I'll be honest with you guys, and I don't talk about this often because to me, the Mandela effect is a little out there, and I don't know, people who watch my work, they're probably already onto this kind of stuff. But the other Mandela effect that kills me, there's 2 of them. There's this one, the Flute of the Loom, and the old Chick-fil-A. The spelling of Chick-fil-A. Now, this one I'm not so certain about. I guess there's a little bit of a doubt in my brain with this, but not really, because, I'm a spelling bee champion. like almost every year of grade school, and I never studied. This was because, you know, people told me I have like a photographic memory. I'm able to see a word once and I just know how to spell it forever, right? And I could have sworn that there was no K in Chick-fil-A. And the reason I'm not certain is because we didn't have any Chick-fil-A restaurants in our area, but we did see the commercials. And I remember thinking, why would they leave the K out? But then they would leave the C out when they showed the signs with the cows, right? And then all of a sudden, Chick-fil-A popped up and there's a K. So when I first found this in 2016, which is right around the time I started to get into Gematria, right before I built the Gematrinator, I'm not kidding. I took off of work one day because I was so mind-fucked. I was like, what's going on? Why are things possibly changing? Can I not trust my own brain? And, you know, similarly, I don't own any Fruit of the Loom clothing that I can go back and look at. So some of you in the chat also confirming, isn't that weird? Why do we have the same shared memories? And I suppose there's something to be said for the power of suggestion, right? Look, if I just come up to somebody and say, do you remember a cornucopia behind the logo? They're a lot more likely to say yes than if you ask them, do you remember an object behind this? And then you wait for their answer. And if they say cornucopia, then you know it's a true alignment. But you never know with this stuff. But something's definitely changing. This stuff is weird. And when you look at the breadth and depth of numerology and how these things connect, it's like, what type of reality are we living in even? And, you know, you look at my last few videos, I'm doing work on injuries that connect to the deaths of various people in Hollywood. And at least this injury was real. And it's not the first injury I've done numerology on before. So to me, this points to the mystical belief that there is a creator, there is essentially a superconscious that is operating within each and every one of us that helps govern our destiny. I don't know how else to put it. But there is definitely a war on the mind. And I always wondered, like, was the Mandela effect stuff, was it somehow done intentionally to mess with us, to make us think we can't trust our own memories? And if we can't trust our own memories, then what's true? What's false? And then they start introducing this whole 3, 4, 5, 6 gender thing. And you're like, oh, I see where this is going. So I don't know what the truth is, but if you want my honest opinion, whether there is something about reality that changes facts, or if it's people behind the scenes pulling the strings and messing with us, I would actually take the former, man. I mean, my life is too weird. I just think this is the world we live in. It's a numerical superstructure. That's how it works. Berenstein Bears, there's another big one. And yeah, I definitely think it was Berenstein, and then it changed to Berenstain. That one I'm not as sure about as the other two I talked with, but it's out there, man. It's out there. So, yeah, guys. So, once again, we went a little bit longer than I was planning, but it's good to have these little conversations at the end to talk a little bit more about the wide world of numerology and conspiracy. Because there's a lot of things going on in the world. A lot of people are still growing their conscience. They're still learning about the world at large. What's a deception? You know, what's the truth? We've been played by all sides. You know, wolves in sheep's clothing. Government officials who appear to be on our side but aren't, and then the vice versa. And so it's a pretty crazy time these days. And this is why I stick with the numbers, because it makes sense of a world that otherwise seems to have no true logic. And maybe it is the lizards pulling the strings. I prefer to think it's a more intelligent species, but maybe it's just lizards. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in and pitching in the live chat, especially to help convince me that maybe my sanity is still in store with these Mandela effects, you know? That I'm not the only one. There's other people out there who notice similar things, and that's what this channel is all about, just noticing not just changes, but patterns that seem a little bit more than coincidence. don't they? All right, everyone. Peace, love, God bless. Again, check the links in the description for more related videos that I mentioned in the last half hour. And also, if you want to help support the work to keep us online and keep these videos coming, I got big plans for the future if we can continue to build the business. Something that others, a lot of people are looking to others for, but I think we can provide it at Gematrinator. So let's keep this thing going, man. Let's keep truth alive and the word of the Creator spreading and the wonderful geometry we live in. See ya.